Hello developers, let's start developing. Today we're taking on the 5th day of 2025's Advent of Code and we're in cafeteria. So, of course, we're gonna need to look at some ingredients. The format is kind of weird. These are the arrays of ranges of fresh ingredients and these are the ingredients that we need to check. So the first part of the task is gonna be relatively straightforward, and I feel that the most painful part will be kinda parsing the input. So let's get right on that. So the input, yeah, I will just define it like this, will be not lines but ranges, which will be an array of pairs of numbers. So it will be an array of ranges, so to say, and then we have a list of ingredients. Yeah, ingredient. Yeah, that's a weird word. Spell that's a number array. So that is the type that we need to take care of. So we're not taking the string array, we're just taking an actual input type. So let's replace this with input. Of course, now the problem becomes that we actually need to do that thing. So how is this done? We have a few lines and then we get an empty line. So lines, map lines, whatever. What we're gonna do? Well, we're just gonna do a simple loop and a half. We're gonna say let line is lines dot. Actually, we can take it up. Yeah, not the last, but shift. Yeah, we're gonna take a line. So this is a string or undefined. We're quite sure that it's not gonna be undefined, so we're gonna do this. So while line is not the empty string, we are guaranteed to have an empty string. We're just gonna declare result is ranges, which is an empty array. Yeah, as that, an ingredient. So this looks better, that is ingredients, as a number array. So while the line is not empty, then we can do this. We can do a split, but we can also do a regex. So the regex says take the numbers, then a minus, then some other numbers, and if we have a match, then we push on the ranges, and actually I'm gonna say an else here, that our range line is invalid. So we are supposed to have a match. Otherwise, yeah, shift the line. So this is, if this is correct, return, yeah, just return -1. It doesn't matter what we're returning. I now want to debug and actually see the input. Why is this thing red? Because we are not returning an input because we forgot to return the result. And now everything is green, which means that we can start npm run start debug day 5, and this will print out the input. We're only mapping the ingredients, the ranges 3, 5, 10, 14, 16, 20, 12, 18. Also note that this thing and this thing are overlapping, but we don't care, because for the ingredients we will need to check whether it matches any of the ranges, not all of the ranges. For the second part we might get some other requirements, but we'll see. So once we're done here, the ranges are great. We just now need to map the ingredients. Right now, line is the empty line, which means that we popped everything else. Let's just see what the lines are. I think that we actually popped the empty line as well. Not pop, shifted out, but yes, let's see that. So these are the remaining lines. They have one ingredient ID per line, which is great. So we just need to do lines.map. We don't need to split on anything. We map it with parseInt. And that means we will get an array of numbers, and that is the result.ingredients. Let's see what we get now. The result will be -1, but we got some not acceptable values. Why? 158, 11, 17, 32. Because parseInt is never working as it's supposed to be, so map the lines, line, parseInt, that line, base 10. Let's see if this works. Okay. 158, 11, 17, 32. Technically, this is basically the same thing that I had already written, but I'm not gonna argue with results. One of them didn't work, this worked. Let's just leave it as is. So this means that now we have our input in a proper way. Let's see what we need to do. So what we need to do, actually I'm gonna deconstruct it here, so that's we have the ranges and we have the ingredients over here. So for of ingredients, we're just gonna say ranges dot is there some range with a minimum and maximum where that holds true. Yeah, it got what I wanted to say. So for each range, we have the minimum and the maximum, and we are looking whether the ingredient is bigger than the minimum or equal, or bigger or equal to the max, while being bigger than the minimum but less than the maximum, so that the ingredient actually is inside that range. Let's do a helper here because this looks kind of weird. Is in range. Yeah, this looks better. For a given range, tell me whether that ingredient is in range. So now we can rewrite it. This is this is the range, and for that range is in range the ingredient in that range. Yeah, this looks much better. And I'm using sum because sum has the property that it will exit on the first range where the ingredient is present. So, which means that if it matches the first one out of 10,000, we will only check one, not 10,000, because we don't need to check all of them to know that it fits some of them. The first one that fits, and we're done. So now, what did we need to count? We need to say spoiled, fresh, fresh, and we need to count the freshes. So const fresh count is 0 initially, and it's not gonna be a const, it's gonna be a let. Yeah, I'm kinda keen on defining variables that look good. Of course, we can do this with conditional, but this is even clearer. So return the number of fresh things. And let's see the result first. Because the problem is that it's gonna give us 3, but I want to see. 1 is spoiled, 85 is fresh, 8 is spoiled. 1 is spoiled, fresh, spoiled, and then we have fresh, fresh, spoiled. Let's check that. Fresh, fresh, spoiled. Yep, it counted the correct ones. So the goal is not just to get the correct now result, because if we, for example, made it so that we're actually counting the spoiled one, we would also get 3, which will work for the initial test, but it won't work for the big one. So let's change our input to the bigger input. And for me, that's this thing. We can see that we have much more numbers here. Yeah, the ranges are kind of bigger. How big is this? Yeah, it's gonna go up to the early 16 numbers. Otherwise, JavaScript might not be too happy. Let's count them up. But note that the size of the numbers doesn't really matter, because 756 of them, let's run it properly in not a debug mode. 756 of them are set to be fresh. That's great. Let's try it. How many are fresh? Exactly 756. That's great. Now we need to read up on part 2. Yes, I've read the second part and I hate it. We need to merge some intervals, and this is totally easy to do, but it's totally easy to make a mistake when you're doing it, so I would be kind of surprised if I get it right on the first part. I know the algorithm, I know what needs to be done. I've done it a bunch of times because this is a problem that appears again and again and again in software. But the problem is that it's tricky, that it's very easy to make an off by one error in some direction, so you don't get the correct result. Yeah, it's kind of a scheduling, often comes up in scheduling. Even if you have time zones included in that, I don't think that's solvable by any sane person. Fortunately, by the time that you get it done, you kind of went insane. So yeah, it makes total sense once you go crazy. So what we need to do? It sounds simple. We need to count how many total ingredients are fresh, basically count all the lengths of all the intervals. So this interval has 3 items. This interval has 5 items. This interval also has 5 items. This has 6 items. Or 7 items. But the point is that this interval actually uses 3 of the values 12, 13, 14 from this interval, and 3 values 16, 17, 18 from this interval. So from this interval we're actually only counting the 15, and which means that we need to somehow do that. We need to detect whether some intervals are overlapping. The good news is that we don't really need the ingredients, so we can just take the ranges. And actually, I will call this, yeah, trimmed ranges. No, not that. I will just make a copy. this is an array of arrays, so yeah, better to do it a map, and for each range, just map it to range.slice. So this makes a copy. Trimmed ranges are a copy for that. Yeah, I would like to sort them first, and actually we can sort them over here. I have no idea which version of node I am using, so let's just see if this code works, because to sort it is a very nice method, but it's only available in recent versions of node. So let's just do return -1 over here and run the program to see if it will actually work. Yep, it did, so we can access to sorted. It's great because sort actually sorts in place. To sorted provides you with another array. So yeah. So this is not so much trimmed as sorted ranges. And it's a copy of the ranges. And let's see them. Let's see if they sort them properly. Yep, we did. So what are we gonna do now? When we're processing for the first, it's not a problem for the first one. Oh no, that's that. We have let total count equals to 0. For the first one is not a problem, so let's just for of range of sorted ranges. Do we need the index as well? Yeah, we might. And since they are sorted by the first, maybe it would be nice to have another thing that's sorted by the last. But yeah, let's just do this and see where we come up. So we have, so now find overlaps. So for this range, we will need to find all the ranges that end after this one starts. By sorting them, we guarantee that all the ranges that came before started before we started. So this one, 3, cannot start after 10, because that's not how numbers work. But we don't know if this 5 is less than 10 or if it's 15, because if it's 15, this was 315, then that totally subsumes this thing. So what I will do is I will focus on this. We know that all the ranges before us started here, but if this is 15, that means that this, we don't really care if this is 10 or 11 or 12 or anything that is less than or equal to 15. Yeah, so we can just set it to 16 and then count it. So basically, I'm gonna need to do some writing on this. Yeah, and for that I have the number 1 programmer's tool, and that is Excel. So we have 3 and 5 and 10 and 14 and 12 and 18 and 16 and 20. I think. Yeah. So we're processing this thing, and this one has 5 minus 3 plus 1, actually. That's 2 and 1, 3 items. This one, do we have any other previous ranges that end after 10? No. So this stays as a 10, this stays as a 14, which means that we are adding 5. But now, do we have any other items that are starting after, that are ending after 12 starts? Yes, we do. That's this one. So we will replace this 12 with 14 plus 1. We will replace it with 15. How many items do we have here? Well, 15 minus 18 minus 15, 3 plus 1, that's 4. And this 16 has the same issue, so we're going to replace it with 20, and that means we have 2. And the total sum of items is 14. Yeah, that's going to be the algorithm. So for this, find the maximum of that. I think, let's see. So for that index, find the overlaps. Find any range that ends after we start. That's the current range, and I will say for the sorted ranges, slice them from 0 up to index, and give me for the range we don't care about the minimum, we care about the maximum, and so give me the maximum. So using this we will get all the maximums that came before us, and on that I do have a max method, and that will give me, this is just a simple reduce. To be honest, I already have it, so we can actually replace this with this. Give me the maximum of the maximums. That is the maximum value for all the previous intervals. So now I will just say if the previous maximum, yeah, we need to maybe to take some special handling of the zeroth element, but because that will give us undefined, I think. Let's see how that thing is implemented actually. This is my implementation. Yeah, it's going to give us negative infinity. Doesn't really matter then. So if the previous maximum is bigger or equal to the current minimum, then we do have an overlap. And we're gonna solve that overlap by current range of 0 is the previous maximum plus 1. That's it. And then on the total count, and now we might get a situation when we have some weird case, because if we have 3, 15, and here we have 10, 12. So this interval is fully subsumed into the previous one. So by our logic, we will make this into a 16. So we will say that this actually has a negative number of items. No, I will just say that if it has a negative number, it's 0. So that means if current range of 0 is bigger, then don't do anything. That's a complete overlap. Otherwise, total count is that thing. all the elements in the range. And at the very end, return the total count. Oh, I didn't see, and I would have been beaten in the ass because this actually kind of skipped the last range. I have no idea why. Let's see. This is the range length. Let's just console log it. That's the non-overlapping range, and of course I will add it here. So let's run it and see what happens. We have 4 ranges, so we have 3, 5, then we have 10, 14, then 15, 18, then 19, 20, with lengths that many. Great. Let's try it on the big input now. We have much more ranges, so I don't think that it will be too fast. And you can see, yeah, we are getting elements of length that is that many, and we are getting elements of length 1, and we got some huge number for the length. Let's see if this is correct. I would be very happy if it was, but I'm not always successful in this. Yeah, that makes sense. The answer is the maximum. Let's see. We're gonna submit it, and we got the right answer on the first try. Take that off by 1 errors. So I'm quite, let's say, happy with this code. It makes sense. Our analysis gave us that. We had to use some weird array methods, but I think it's for the best. I'm quite happy with that. I will leave it at. You can check it out on GitHub. You can see what the fuss is all about, and keep developing.